Hey there, friends at home. Welcome back to my amateur gardening channel. Um, Today I'm super happy because this is the second or third day in a row, second day for sure, I haven't had to water any plants, and everything looks fantastic. If you zoom in, those tomatoes actually aren't fantastic. They don't look that great at all. They're probably on the chopping block. It's hard for me to kill plants, but I think they have some kind of bacterial leaf thing going on in the center. I didn't stake them as an experiment, and it has failed. Maybe if it was a drier year, that would have worked, but it's super wet right now, and it's not working. I had a couple of failures back here. That branch is still alive, but it did break after the last rain. And a lot of these plants are having similar problems. High winds and a lot of water weight on the leaves have caused them to collapse. Like this one is just bent over onto its neighbors and partially into a hollyhock. It's pretty much just laying across a Peking and a Peking hybrid. This one is just kind of laying on the ground. And this Peter pepper here, that is so loaded down with peppers, I can't even believe how productive this plant is. Both the Peter pepper and the Peter pepper hybrid, they're from Hippie Seed Company in Australia, and I just couldn't be happier. I mean, this plant is, you just can't really see it on camera for some reason, but there are just peppers literally everywhere on this plant, and more every day. And they have these crazy huge white blooms. Like, there's my finger for comparison. It's huge. It's huge. Absolutely gorgeous. I am planting a food forest in my yard, and this is the beginning. This is the canopy layer. And if you haven't seen any of my other, well, there's only one right now besides this, and probably nobody's even ever going to see these. This is mostly a video diary for myself. But these, I have a few standout Moringas, but two particularly are quite large. This one right here in front of us is just enormous. She's almost 5 feet tall, and she has a proper tree trunk now. She's getting tree bark on it even. And she's collarbone high on me now. I'm 5'4", and I'm standing on a layer of mulch that's at least four inches deep right here. Maybe more. It started out as more of this compacted with all the rain, and but she's going to be close to 6 feet soon, and once she gets past that, she'll clear the wall. She doesn't have far to go at all. And neither do the rest of these trees. They're quickly getting some height to them. I can't say enough about them. You do kind of have to give them a little bit of a ground blanket in the form of mulch, or give them just a ton of water. Not a ton, because they don't really need all that much, actually. A lot less than, say, a tomato or a pepper plant would. But the ones that have the most radiant heat along this back wall have suffered. These are much deeper mulched. This is actually a basin area I'm standing in. Right here is a line pretty much where you would have had to step up before. You can almost see it right here. There's like a line. Anyway, this has got like double or triple the mulch all the way around. The yard actually went down. It was like a square depression right here, and I filled it completely up. And that's why I wanted to put my food forest here, is because water would naturally overflow from the roof line, and there's a depression. Even though at first the pathway is raised, there's a depression because that area has been compacted and used as a pathway for this, not this garden layout or this garden, but a similar, like I just started reusing most of their beds, except that the beds came all the way to about where this tree is. There was a bed here and a bed here and a chicken coop where that, a very small chicken area over here. And then everything on that terrace was grass. There was a lawn back here, and I'm not about a lawn, so it was easy enough. I just didn't water it, and it died. But I didn't do anything to it because I wanted any plant material and roots left there. So that's what I did. We mulched this up real good, and I just used a rake to pull the mulch away to prep the soil for these trees. All that I did was take about a 5-gallon bucket's worth out of our native soil. I amended the hole and the soil with gypsum and worked it in. And then I took the bucket of dirt that I took from each hole and I put it in a larger, like a wheelbarrow, except in this case I had a 20-gallon black plastic planter or pond liner container, and I mixed the soil with some composted cattle manure and gypsum, and then returned it back to the hole with a tiny amount of amendment. But that really the gypsum, and I used the composted cattle manure to add some aggregate to the soil, like a softer, kind of spongier aggregate, and then added all the soil back to the holes in an effort to give the little tender roots the ability to push through the soil and make their way down. And also that any water that made it down in there would percolate more easily into the root zone. So supposedly these trees don't have invasive lateral, branching roots. They just have a more or less a taproot and some side roots. I looked at some videos of these being dug up before I chose to plant them because I wanted to get them pretty close to the wall without damaging it. And I don't see any of these trees are going to hurt this wall. I think that that's far enough away that each tree, unless they got pretty gargantuan, would not damage the wall. But these have to be pruned back to a spar or the trunk with just some lateral branches chopped back, and then protected for the winter. I'll cage them in some kind of like wire remesh and then stuff all of that with straw and maybe burlap, line the outside to keep the straw in, and then cage each one of these up, drop a cage over the spar, and then just pack it. I may line the outsides with burlap and then pack it with straw, and then that should protect it from frost and temperature fluctuations. And then I would just wait till the last frost date had passed and then uncover. They really need about 40 degrees and above. If they go below that, they'll go dormant. So above 40 degrees, I can uncover them. But until then, they need to stay protected. So. But these Moringa trees, I really like the way they taste. It has kind of a sweet and then slightly bitter flavor to it. But it finishes with this lovely green pea flavor, maybe mixed with green beans, but definitely like a pea flavor. And I haven't really been harvesting any leaves off of them except I will come through and pull these little bitty shoots once they get a little bigger off and just munch them as I travel through the garden. You can see this one has some tiny ones, but behind it is a stump where I picked off the last one. So here's I think it's called a leaf petiole that's left behind from where I munched. But they have a really tasty flavor. But I want to preserve their foliage for growth. I don't want to set them back at all, although these love to be pruned. That's not going to hurt them in the long run at all. But I also have discovered that the older leaves at the bottom are kind of tough and bitter. Like, they don't taste that good. These are, I would not want to eat those. These would be a little fibrous. These would be delicious. These would be delicious. But definitely I would go for these before these, but I would still eat these. But I probably wouldn't want to eat those at all. They just feel kind of tough when you like handle the leaves, whereas these start to get a little softer and these softer yet. But I like the fresh flavor. Supposedly people tout these as miracle superfoods. I don't know about all that. I watched something not long ago where they were like, you'd have to eat 5 cups of fresh leaves to get the nutritional benefit that they tout this plant as having. And who's really going to eat 5 cups? Sure, that's true. So they're not really giving a fair assessment of the nutritional profile. Like me just plucking leaves off, I mean, the amino acids I get from it is pretty good, but in order to get the types of benefit that is touted, supposedly, you'd need 5 cups of fresh leaves every day. But I'm not growing these because I'm afraid I'm going to starve anytime soon. It's just they're a good fit for what I want. I want a yard of edible plants and perennials and annuals, and they have to be useful. Like this does need a lot of pruning, but you can use it as firewood beautifully. It's a lovely firewood, supposedly. And I burn a lot of wood here. We have that barbecue area, and I use any other wood I can find, which is, my house came with a huge wood pile. There's a dead pine tree on it, and all those branches are they preserved them on the property here after they cut the tree down. It died of bark beetles. So I burn those logs, and then when they turn to charcoal, I put mesquite on top and smoke my salsa making, like tomatoes and tomatillos and all that stuff. But so the wood is useful. The seeds purify water. Now this is can be a little misleading. What they're really doing is taking the crushed up pulp from the seeds after they've been pressed to get the oil content out, and that acts as like maybe they call it a coagulant. It causes the suspended particles in dirty water, like mud puddle water, to clump up and fall to the bottom and leave a sediment layer. But what that would do for you was clarify the water to the point where a lot of microorganisms and everything is trapped in that filth layer at the bottom. And then you can draw off the cleanish water and then boil it or treat it however you need to so it's drinkable. So it is very useful for that. And I don't ever see a time when I'm going to have to crush moringa seeds and filter mud water out of the street to drink, but it's interesting to know that this plant has that capability. That's nice to know. What I really see this as good use for is drying the leaves and giving it to hikers that stop here, that are on the Arizona Trail, as a nutritional supplement that's lightweight and easy to carry. You just swallow some gel caps. But again, if you have to have 5 cups of fresh leaves, what does that equal as a fresh dried product? I mean, maybe it's many handfuls of those pills, so it may not be practical. I don't know. Part of me wants to have a lot of gardens just for people to go pick their own salad when they're here. I do a lot of trail work for the Arizona Trail and give people a lot of rides, and we would like to open our house and yard eventually to them and to stay. I mean, like, you could pitch a tent right where I'm walking right now, as long as it didn't damage the trees. We also have this little building over here that is going to be set up as a hiker hut. So, folks can just stay on a cot or whatever with their sleeping bag and stuff and do their own thing as much as they want. Like, I don't need to be entertained by people, but I'm happy to be as social as people want. Like, a trail experience needs to be your own. You have to make your experience your own. So for us, it would be just like whatever they wanted. The only catch is I won't have anybody here longer than 2 nights and 3 days. Just because I don't want anybody to ever try to be able to say that they have some kind of like tenant relationship. So that happens if you stay over 3 days or a week, or I don't even know, but 2 nights I'm going to be fine. My watermelons have gone crazy. And with hikers, I'm not worried about that. These people have spent a lot of money. They want to just hike. They need to resupply. They have to get a lot of crap done when they're in town. So it needs to be as easy as possible. And offering people a no frills place to stay, a free roll of toilet paper if they need, and whatever. I'm happy to help with that. So the roses came with this property. I think this might be a type of climbing rose back here, but it is really happy this year. Last year I thought it was dead. This is a humongous marigold. A lot of these are volunteers from plants that were planted here by the former owners that I just encourage anything that comes up. But I haven't gone to the nursery and bought any flowering plants because I have a lot of flowering plants here already. But a lot less than when we bought the place. They seem like they were constantly at the Home Depot and the Lowe's buying clearance flowers, mostly flowers. It looked like they planted their own varieties of veg, but they got a lot of discount plants. There's like a ton of Thai basil. There's a ton of dill. It's gone for the year right now. But right here's like a whole mess of snapdragons that have all bloomed and been beautiful. And let's see if you can get in there. There's a whole bunch of new growth. So I imagine they're going to flower all over again. These trees were not in very good shape. This is all new tips on them. It's got a lot of new growth, which is good because the former owners of the house, butchered these back. They like cut off so much of this tree. I can't even believe like how they hacked at these. There's like, they cut the whole centers out of most of them. They don't have a lot of support left. I'm really trying hard to preserve them. They just cut them out on both sides and expose like the bottom to the elements. So I under this strip of mulch right here, I put a bunch of cattle manure, composted cattle manure, and then covered that with mulch. And then the trees struggled for a little while. I thought they were going to die. They were dropping tons of foliage. And maybe it's also part of their natural process, I don't know. But at that time, they seemed like they were struggling. And then as soon as I added the mulch and have since remulched this front part also, they are really doing better. They look like they can just relax in the soil a little. It's not as harsh. I'm also going to probably put down a product that kind of kills off a lot of the beetle grubs I think they've been kind of like attacked underground also because they had been weakened by all the chopping. So if I can naturally reduce some of the root pest pressure, they may, I think, do a little better, hopefully. So hopefully I like them. They provide a lot of shade for the yard. And then this little beauty over here, it looks pretty torn back in spots, but this is all brand new growth. All of this is new and fresh. When I very first planted it, it had a lot of stress and it was badly burnt by the sun. I put a ton more mulch down right here. I made like a huge wide ring of mulch, and then I took some of the Bermuda grass bits, and it's all a depression in there, and like let me see, I'll show you. So it's not even really touching the tree. Nothing's really touching the tree branch. It's open in there. I mean, the trunk. This just kind of is like a dress over the top to help keep the soil temperatures down. And then this is to just protect the tree from direct sun. I'm going to probably replace it with some white cardboard soon, but I didn't know you could get that. And that's what I had on hand. So I made it a dress. It's a beautiful dress. And then I started giving it, it's grown like, where's the union? Right here. It's grown from this point, and you could see that it's variegated on the stem. But it's grown a lot. I don't know. 10 inches, maybe 12 in spots. Like this top right here, this top bit is all brand new. Since I've owned this plant. This is all new. This is all, well, this branch was here, but the top parts, this was old, but this is mostly new. It does have some burn in spots because this was absolutely the hottest summer on record. But once we got her mulched up and on a good feeding of Neptune's harvest, suddenly she's doing much better. So super happy about that. This is variegated pink Eureka lemon. So really, really, really ornamental citrus tree. It's just so beautiful. It's like such a charismatic little tree. One of my favorite parts is this beautiful branch that's I don't know, it's lacking chlorophyll, except it looks like somebody spray painted these leaves right here. It's just this one like albino little branch. It's not a real albino though. It just doesn't make chlorophyll except in those tiny green speck areas. But the rest of it is like multiple colors of light green, dark green, and cream. It's just really, 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 really pretty. And it'll have kind of lavender tinged flowers that open to a creamy white, but the buds will be like pink or lavender. So this definitely, like, I wanted to trim the messed up leaves off, but I've left them as sun protection for new shoots until it gets a little stronger. I don't really want to even trim damaged leaves off there, serving as protection for other parts at the moment. So once it grows past a lot of that, I'll start picking it off, but for now I'm just kind of just leaving it alone because I don't want to overdo it. I got a little carried away over here when we first moved in. There was a lot of dead and crossing branches, but I over pruned the center of the tree. I mean, you want airflow, and that's good, and I've done that, but now I need to encourage some good branching in there, and I am getting it. You can see I've got some nice normal, it's not like sucker growth branching. There are some sucker branches in here, but most of this is normal tree. So, but it has had a bunch of suckers too. But it's a navel orange, and they don't really do that great in Arizona. Last year the fruit was tasty but pretty dry. But the tree was also really struggling. It got pretty messed up on this side, burnt. But also, as you can see, it is growing back. It is happier. So, this rainy day tour has gone a lot longer than I thought it would be. Sorry about the video length. This is just a all-volunteer hollyhock bed. It had some kind of insect explosion over here. There's some you can see right here. Let me see if I can zoom in. I don't know what those guys are, but I gave the plants a good spray with some neem yesterday and got the vast majority of these cleaned up. But I will have to come through a couple more times and spray again. I sprayed down the tops of my corns, but my squash are really starting to get big. They must be getting into that blood meal now and getting some poop tea filtered down into their roots from the compost on the topsoil. My corns definitely look like they got into that blood meal. They've been getting plenty of rain, and man, are they getting big. Man, they're going for it now. They're about knee-high corn. Some of them over here are a little shorter. I'm going to cut back some of the competing tall plants. I'm going to get rid of like that hollyhock and anything else that looks like it's crowding the corn. Probably this hollyhock's on the chopping block too. The corn first. I love the hollyhocks, but I got a full quart-sized bag of seeds, and every single one of these is going to make about 100 or more. So I need to make room for pinto beans, and I need to make room for corn. And all of that greenery at the bottom right there, 100% of those sprouting plants are hollyhocks. Every single one of those is a hollyhock. So there's too many hollyhocks as it is. I love them, but if anything, I have too many of them. So onions are looking tasty. I don't think a single peanut has been fertilized. I don't think I'm getting peanut production at all. I haven't seen any of the little things that grow down, and all the flowers look like they wither unfertilized. So I'm pretty sad about that, but hopefully it changes. I have tons of pollinators. They come to these flowers every single day. I have tons of bees on the property. There are probably bees humming in my melons right now. But so far, nothing like my peanuts or my tomatillos from the looks of it. The tomatillos are even closer to the melons than the anything else. And I haven't seen any bees messing with these tomatillos. But now late in the year, they'll spend all their time. This will be one of the last flowering plants, but so far I haven't seen a single tomatillo. And there is no shortage of flowers here. None whatsoever. They're literally covering these vines everywhere. And I'll be over here and I'll see the bees fly from a melon over onto one of these and look and be like, nope. Go right back to the melons. Oops, white blowout. Sorry about that. So anyway, that's probably it. I'm sure probably nobody's ever going to watch these, but if they do, they don't want to hear any more than 30 minutes of me rambling as I wander around in the rain. Hope you're having a beautiful day, and I know I sure am, and thankful for more than $10 worth of free water today.